The rain had been pouring down all afternoon, pounding against the cracked sidewalks of the small city like a relentless drum. Streets that were once bustling with people now looked almost deserted, except for the occasional umbrella bobbing through the storm. At the corner of Oakwood Avenue, a young man named Marcus rushed along, his hood pulled tightly over his head, sneakers splashing through shallow puddles. He wasn't just running from the rain, he was running from his thoughts. Marcus was 26 years old, tall and broad-shouldered, with eyes that held both determination and weariness. Life had never been easy for him. Growing up on the South Side, he'd been surrounded by struggling single mother, absent father, bills that seemed to grow taller than he did. He worked odd jobs, anything from construction to warehouse shifts, to keep food on the table and maybe, just maybe, save enough to chase his dream. Opening his own auto repair shop. Cars had been his passion since he was a boy, watching his uncle fix engines in a garage that smelled of oil and ambition. But dreams felt expensive, and Marcus's pockets were always too light. That evening, he had just left a job interview, one of many. His jeans were damp, his jacket clung to him, and disappointment weighed heavier than the rain. The manager at the shop had smiled politely but said the same words Marcus had heard too often: "We'll keep your application on file." He knew what that meant. Another closed door, another dream deferred. As he crossed the street, shoulders hunched against the storm, something caught his eye. A frail figure struggled at the corner bus stop, a woman, elderly, clutching a grocery bag in one hand and a cane in the other. The plastic bag tore under the weight, spilling apples and bread onto the soaked pavement. The rain plastered her gray hair against her forehead, her coat clung to her body, and her hands trembled as she tried to bend down. Marcus slowed, his first instinct telling him to keep walking. He was cold, drenched, and desperate to get home. But then his mother's voice echoed in his mind, words she had spoken countless times when he was a boy: "Son, never walk past someone who needs help. The world gives back to givers." He stopped, sighed, and jogged toward the woman. "Ma'am, let me help you," he said, crouching down and gathering the scattered apples from the wet pavement. His voice was gentle, almost apologetic, as though he didn't want to startle her. The woman looked up, her eyes cloudy with age but still sharp enough to register surprise. "Oh, bless you, young man," she said, her voice trembling but warm. "I didn't think anyone would stop." Marcus gave her a small smile. "Can't let you struggle out here in this weather. Let me carry these for you." He carefully repacked her groceries, then held out his hand. "Where are you headed?" The woman hesitated, shivering as thunder rolled overhead. "Just a few blocks down a broken bar, Willow Street Apartments, but I don't think I can make it alone." Marcus didn't think twice. "I'll walk with you." Together, they moved slowly down the slippery sidewalk. Marcus kept one arm ready in case she stumbled, shielding her as much as he could from the rain. He didn't even notice how soaked he was anymore. He only noticed her fragile frame beside him, the way her cane taped unevenly, the way she thanked him with every step. "You remind me of my grandson," she said softly, "always looking out for people." Marcus chuckled. "Well, my mama raised me right. Besides, nobody should be out here struggling alone." When they finally reached the faded brick building of Willow Street Apartments, Marcus helped her up the steps and opened the door for her. Inside, the air smelled faintly of old carpet and heating pipes, but it was dry and warm compared to the storm outside. The woman turned to him, her eyes glistening with gratitude. "You're a good man. Most people would have walked right past me." Marcus shrugged, a little embarrassed. "It was nothing, really. I just did what anyone should do." She reached into her bag, pulling out a folded tissue and pressing it into his hand. "No, young man, it was something. Sometimes the smallest kindness means the most." "What's your name?" "Marcus," he replied, wiping the rain from his brow. She nodded thoughtfully, as though committing it to memory. "Marcus, a broken bar. I'll remember that. Thank you." With that, she disappeared into the hallway, leaving Marcus standing there, dripping wet, holding a soggy tissue and wondering why his chest felt strangely lighter than it had all day. He stepped back out into the storm, not knowing that this one simple act, this decision to stop, to help, would ripple through his life in ways he couldn't yet imagine. For that elderly woman wasn't just anyone. She carried a story, a past, and more importantly, a power that would soon collide with Marcus's future. But for now, Marcus simply walked home, unaware that tomorrow would bring a twist so shocking, it would leave him questioning whether fate itself had been waiting for this moment. He thought about the elderly woman from the night before, her tired eyes, the way she clutched his arm for balance, the gratitude in her trembling voice. For a moment, helping her had given him a sense of purpose, a reminder that he wasn't invisible, that his actions mattered. But then reality sank back in. Good deeds didn't pay rent, kindness didn't open businesses, and compassion didn't erase rejection letters. Marcus pulled on his work boots, preparing for another long day of searching. He had no idea that his path was already set in motion, guided by the very woman he'd helped in the storm. That same morning, in an office high above the city streets, Eleanor Whitmore sat sipping her tea, gazing out the window of a sleek corner suite. At first glance, she looked like any other elderly woman, frail, silver-haired, her cane resting against the polished mahogany desk. But Eleanor was no ordinary woman. She was one of the city's most respected philanthropists and the widow of a wealthy businessman who had left her a fortune. Unlike many who hoarded their riches, Eleanor believed in using her resources to change lives. She had funded scholarships, built community centers, and supported small businesses, but her wealth had also made her cautious. Over the years, she had seen too many people approach her with smiles only to take advantage later. Genuine kindness, she had learned, was rare. That was why the moment Marcus helped her in the rain, without asking for anything, it touched something deep in her heart. She had spent the night thinking about him, his gentle tone, the way he didn't hesitate, the humility in his eyes. Eleanor had made a decision. She would find Marcus. Meanwhile, Marcus walked into yet another auto shop that afternoon, resume in hand. The receptionist barely glanced at him before muttering, "We're not hiring." He stood there for a second, swallowing his frustration, then turned to leave. Just as he reached the door, his phone buzzed. An unfamiliar number flashed on the screen. "Hello?" He answered cautiously. "Good afternoon, Marcus," came a soft but commanding voice. "This is Eleanor Whitmore. Do you remember me from last night?" Marcus froze in the doorway, gripping the phone tighter. "You have broken bar?" "Yes, ma'am." "Of course. Are you okay?" She chuckled lightly. "I'm more than okay, thanks to you. I was hoping we could meet today. There's something important I'd like to discuss with you." Marcus hesitated. Why would she want to meet him again? Did she forget some groceries? Did she need another errand? Still, her tone carried an air of importance he couldn't ignore. "Sure, ma'am. Where should I meet you?" She gave him the address of an upscale office building downtown. Marcus almost laughed in disbelief. Him? In a place like that? But something told him to go. An hour later, Marcus stood in the gleaming lobby, feeling out of place in his scuffed boots and worn jacket. The receptionist greeted him politely, almost as if she'd been expecting him. "Mr. Marcus, Mrs. Whitmore is waiting for you."